Hello Orchid friends, welcome back to my channel. Wherever you are, I hope you're having a great day, staying healthy and staying safe. Today we're going to look at one of my species orchid. This one is called schilleriana TKP. When I first learned about orchid, this hobby, schilleriana was always on the top of my list for the orchids to get. And when I got it, I was very pleasantly surprised by the markings and the fact that the underleaf color is purple, and also for its flower shape. If you look closely, its flower isn't quite the same as the standard Phalaenopsis orchid flower shape, and the lip also is very interesting. The only thing I wish this orchid would have is fragrance, or stronger fragrance, because if I put my nose really close to the flowers, I can smell a little bit of something, but I would not consider this particular orchid a fragrant Phalaenopsis. I've had this orchid for, maybe 4 or 5 years now, and it's still a relatively small/young plant. It always gives me about 6 to 8 blooms each time, but it has never gotten more. It has never given me more flowers than that. And in terms of leaf count, so far it's 3 leaves in this video, but it has gotten me 4 leaves before, and it always goes between 3 and 4 leaves. But I have seen some really old schilleriana that's mounted on a piece of wood grown outside, and they can grow to have multiple leaves. We're talking about 8 to 10 leaves. So I don't know if it's because the age of this orchid or because I'm growing this in a cup indoors that's somehow hindering its growth. I don't know. So for those of you who may have schilleriana for more than 4, 5, 10 years, if you have different experience or tips, please share, let me know in the comments section below. In terms of care, this orchid is receiving 1/4 cup of water pretty much throughout the year, except for winter time. I would choose to reduce the water amount to 1/8 of a cup, and then at the end of the month, the last watering cycle, I would soak this orchid really well by adding the water all the way up to the base of the plant and just let it soak for a good hour or 2. Typically I do that while I do other house chores, and then that works really well because that soaking gives me an opportunity to eliminate or reduce the amount of salt buildup from all the fertilizer that this orchid would get. And in terms of fertilizer, it's 1/4 strength, 25%, that's it. Currently, it's in a 16-ounce cup with the substrate mixture being 1-to-1 ratio of hydrocorn and manto clay. Manto clay is the smaller pebble of the two, and it's worked pretty well. Later in the video, you'll be able to see that there's lots of new roots growing and many active root tips. So far, this orchid seems to be doing okay. Every year it reblooms for me, and by the way, this orchid always blooms around late winter. So usually January you would see the flower spike growing and maturing the buds, and then in late winter is when this orchid would start to put out blooms. Historically, this has always been the first orchid that opened its bloom in all my collection. And because I have a lot of Phalaenopsis, so this tend to be the first orchid to give me blooms. But if you have Cattleya orchids, which usually bloom in the winter, then that will be a different story for you. But for me, most of my orchids are Phalaenopsis, so for Phalaenopsis orchid, this is the first one to bloom. I used to grow this orchid in a completely 100% semi-hydro setup. And that just means that the drainage hole is on the side of the cup where you would have a small amount of reservoir at the bottom. But this orchid was doing just okay for that setup. And then I decided that I want to give it more drainage. So I drill holes at the bottom, but I still use the double cup method, which later you'll see. It essentially gives me a lot of great flexibility because using the double cup, if I want to still have some excess water at the very bottom, it then converts the setup back to semi-hydro. But if I need to soak this orchid really well, very easy. I simply use keep the double cup and then just fill up the water all the way until to the base of the plant. Let it do its thing, and then when it's done, I simply just take out the inner cup, let the water drain through the holes at the bottom. It will be so easy. I don't have to tilt the cup in any way because the pebbles, the top layer of the pebbles are loose. So if I tilt the cup, sometimes the pebbles fall out and it just kind of makes a little mess. So this method actually gives me really easy way of soaking the orchid and draining out the unwanted excess water. And here in the clip you can see lots of roots in the media, and many roots are also trying to grow longer. You can kind of see the root tips as well. And then some roots have already grown out through the drainage holes at the bottom. So that's a really good sign that this orchid is adapting to the last repot, and it's now trying to grow more roots to anchor itself, try to attach itself to the media. There are many different kinds of schilleriana varieties. This one, I'm pretty happy with it. I know there's also the silver leaf variety, and then sometimes the flowers look different, but they're all schilleriana, just slightly different. Depending on where you are, you may be able to find most varieties, but if you don't have any at all, start with one. This is a rewarding orchid overall, so I hope you find one and try it out. I think you'll like it. This is all I have for you today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to get more orchid related videos from my channel, please subscribe and turn on the notification. I want to wish you happy growing, and I will talk to you in my next video. Ciao!